And we are live, right? Listen, welcome to the Real Money Coach Show here on Tuesday evening. I'm excited that you have joined us once again, and you know what we do. We know what you do. You know what we do, right? It's scrolling across your screen right now. Put where you are watching us from, city, location. Tell us, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, all of those channels. Let us know where you're watching from. We want to know so we can say hello to you. Listen, there's somebody from Charlotte to Queen City. Thank you for responding and letting us know. And I do want to remind you guys, depending on how you're coming in on our end, it may not necessarily tell us what your name is, but we want to acknowledge you. So if you happen to put your name, that's cool. Like Michelle Glover, you for being with us this evening from Charlotte, North Carolina. Thank you so much. Who else is out there? I know I got some regulars. Ooh, sorry, y'all. This is live, right? Oh, Lord. But anyway, we are live here. Who else is watching us tonight? Where are you watching from? I'm excited because we have a phenomenal guest on tonight. I've been talking to her for a while about being on the show. We got our calendars to match. Charlotte, we have Ruth Bell from Charlotte, North Carolina is watching. I love how she says Charlotte is in the house, right? Ruth Bell is watching. Thank you, Ruth, for tuning in. Dr. Benita Harris is with us tonight. Thank you, Dr. Benita Harris, for being with us as always. You guys are so faithful each and every week, tuning in, watching. Phenomenal guest tonight. You're going to really enjoy it. And we're going to get a lot out of tonight. I just believe that we can bring some guests and do bring some guests that really have a lot to share. Alice Martin, thank you for being here as well from Charlotte, North Carolina, that can really share some things that can help us. And that's really what we want to do is we really want to help you, our listeners, our viewers, to really change your life. And, again, real and the Real Money Coach is an acronym. Real is for relevant, and then educational, actionable, and life-changing information. And so that's what we want to bring you. Most of the time, we're all in the finance area, but I think there's a lot of parts of our life that we want to minister to the whole person, right? We want to minister not only to you about your finances and your budgeting and your retirement and all these type of things, but we want to minister to the entire person. So I love when we bring guests on that can talk to us about other areas of our life so that we can be well-rounded and improved and approve or better in every aspect. Man, my tongue is tied this evening. One of the things I do want to remind everyone real quickly before I bring the co-host on, our co-host, Michelle Mitchell, is that September is coming up, and September is Life Insurance Awareness Month. And if you got my email this afternoon, I had a link in there where you can schedule. We could do a life insurance review. If you're a current customer of mine and we need to go over your policy, let's do that. If you're not a customer and you want to go over your life insurance plan, let's do that. It doesn't cost you anything, but it is Life Insurance Awareness Month, the month of September. So I want to remind you of that. Hey, there we go. I like Harvey Jones chimed in and said, hey, listen, he said, Total Man Ministry. I love that. The Total Man Ministry. Nice talking to you today, Harvey Jones, as always. That's my man from Birmingham, Alabama, all the way down in Alabama. Great guy, great family. So thank you for tuning in, Harvey, being part of the show this evening. Listen, let me go ahead. Cynthia Thomas is in. Good evening, Cynthia Thomas. Thank you for being here. Listen, I think there's some folks that came to see our guest tonight. I almost am certain of it. But before we get there, let's bring on the hostess with the mostest, my co-host, my girl, my wife's bestie, all of those things. Michelle Mitchell. How you doing, Michelle?
I'm good, Tony. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Michelle, man, we got some things to talk about. But
We do.
before we get there, Kalamazoo was in the news.
Oh,
I'm
was
so
it?
sorry. Yes.
Oh,
Um,
the weather.
it wasn't the weather, but we went to Western Michigan University. Y'all who've been watching the show that know that Michelle and I went
Mhm.
to Western. Well, I saw that there was a young lady that died. It was
Yes,
a hit and run accident, a student,
a
and
student.
so really kind of sad to see Kalamazoo in the news for that reason.
I
But
know.
do want to shout out to that family and to that community because of
Yeah.
course when you're a student and another student dies, that can be tough. That can be
Yes.
tough. So
Yes.
listen, we have a few more people that have chimed in. Ruth Bell said hello, Michelle.
Hello,
Kimberly
Rufel.
said hello from Charlotte. So we got some folks watching from Charlotte. We're excited about it. So one of the things that's been going on is everybody's been talking about, Michelle,
Mhm.
student loan debt.
Student loan debt.
Well, let's say some student loan forgiveness that has just
Yes.
happened that was announced last Wednesday.
Mhm.
Talked a little bit about it on my radio show on Tuesday. Yeah, student loan forgiveness. A lot of people are really excited about that, and a lot of people feel like it kind of fell short as well. So there's
Yes.
a couple different opinions about it.
Mhm.
I've even heard some people upset that they would do this, and that's interesting, right?
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
what I saw that there was some folks that said forgiving student loan debt was like they thought it was horrible.
Mm.
And the president's response and some of the other people to respond is like, well, how can you be mad about student loan debt forgiveness, but we got thousands and millions of dollars of PPP money
PPP.
that went to
Yes.
these large corporations that was
Mhm.
forgiven, but
Mhm.
you don't want to forgive a little bit of student loan debt.
Right. Yeah.
So let's talk about it. Let's give a
Yeah.
few facts
Yeah.
about the student loan forgiveness. Michelle, you want to spill out what you know, and I can chime in.
So what I understand is everyone is getting $10,000 if you're under $150,000 in taxable income, right?
125. 125.
125. What did I
If you're
say?
single, if you're
125, right?
single.
Single 125, right? $10,000 forgiveness if you received a Pell Grant during, I don't know the time frame of that. Is it for 1 year or all 4 years or what? You
Well,
get an additional 10,000.
the way they said it was like if you received a Pell Grant during your undergrad years.
Okay.
So I don't think it's every year, but I think if you
At
received
least
it,
received it. Mhm.
yep. And of course, Pell Grant is only available to undergrads.
That's
So it
correct.
would have to be when you're undergrad.
Mhm.
So if you received a Pell Grant, then you have 20,000
Yes.
of your loan forgiven.
Mhm.
If your income is under
Under 100.
125,000 single
Yes.
and 250,000 if you're married.
Married. Yes.
So I think a lot of people will qualify for that.
I think a lot of people will qualify for that. I do. And the impact is, so I hear two camps, well, this is going to cause inflation like to go up. But
Mhm.
also, if people are relieved of this debt, then they have more income to spend in the community, right? And not
Right.
to the government. They
And
could
so that then drive down inflation.
That could drive down inflation because let's be real, how many are really paying off student loans? Like they're paying the minimum.
Right now, nobody, right?
Nobody,
Because
right?
they have the
Extended.
moratorium
Mhm.
on that, and they extended that to
Mhm.
December 31st. So if you're
Yep.
not paying your student loans because of the COVID, they've extended that to December 31st.
Mhm.
Now, I do know, and I have some clients that said, hey, I took advantage of this when I didn't have to pay it, and I paid down
Yep.
because I'm not being charged that interest or whatever.
Exactly.
And so they were really able to make a good chunk.
Yeah.
Um, and I saw one guy said it was a news report that This whole thing was announced on Wednesday. He said
Mhm.
he paid his total student debt off on Tuesday, right? The day
Uh,
before it was announced, he paid off all his student loan debt.
wow.
Here's a couple things that I wanted to point out to people too, is understanding that you still got to manage this debt, right?
Yes.
Because here's the average undergrad graduates with $29,000
Mhm.
of student loan debt, right?
Yep.
The average master's is $49,000 student loan debt.
Mhm.
And this is interesting because the average MBA student graduates with $52,000 of student loan debt.
Yeah.
The average MSW, right,
Mhm.
Master of Social Work,
Yep.
$80,000 of student loan debt. And I
That's
was like, man, that just doesn't make sense to me, because when I think about if you graduate
Mhm.
with an MBA versus an MSW, in most cases, I believe that the MBA is probably going to make more money
Absolutely.
than the MSW,
Yes.
but yet the MSW graduates with more debt.
You want to know why?
Why is that?
Because they have to do internships that are free. They're not paid.
Ah,
Yes.
so maybe
So
we need to do
therefore,
something
how
about
do
that.
they make ends meet while they're working? Usually, 20 to 40
Clinicals
hours.
and all these types of things that
Yep.
they have to
And they're
do.
working for free. Same with teachers.
Yep, yep.
Same with teachers. They do internships for free. They don't get paid for them. So yeah, that makes sense that their student loan debt would be higher.
Well, I imagine that there's some people watching that are saying to you, Michelle, you go ahead and preach that student loan stuff, girl. Because I mean, we have social workers in my family, my
Mhm.
sister-in-law, and various people, even our guest tonight is a therapist, right?
Mhm.
And so that makes a lot of sense in terms of what you just said there.
Mhm.
Now, do you know what the average PhD has in student loan debt? Well,
PhD it's probably over 150,000.
it's 107.
Yep.
107 for a
100
PhD
PhD. Mhm.
or a doctorate degree, 113 for a law degree,
Okay.
and for a medical degree, over
Two.
$225,000 in student
Yep.
loan debt.
Mhm.
Now, the reason why I point that out is because we've had all of this about this whole thing about the loan forgiveness. Well, if you were carrying the average debt, that's the average,
That's the
right?
average, yeah.
I mean, I don't even know what it's like for our people, right?
Right.
I
Mhm.
mean, you're talking about the average,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think that we probably carry more student loan debt than other ethnic groups, right?
I agree.
Um, but you still got a whole lot of student loan debt to manage,
Yes.
even
That's
with the forgiveness
mhm.
and all those type of things. So I want to encourage people to do a couple things, is just make sure, number one, you don't ignore your debt. Don't
Yeah.
ignore the student loan debt, because owing the IRS, owing student loan debt, those are the things that can get you in trouble really fast, right?
That's correct.
And so you want to make sure you're doing that. Look for programs.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I'm doing these shameful plugs. I'm on Praise 100.9
Yes,
on
I know.
Saturday
Yep.
morning at 7:30 a.m.
Right.
Well, one of the radio hosts there, Melanie Pratt, her husband does credit repair.
Mhm.
And so we had a wonderful credit repair show last week with James Hunt, but he
Right.
does credit repair, and found out that, like, if you have certain medical conditions, like if you're on dialysis, you can
Mhm.
have all your student loan debt wiped out.
Wow.
And so there are special programs out there for people. So make sure you're looking for those special programs that might be a benefit to you.
Yeah, like if
And
you work for a nonprofit or in a school district, ti what's it called? Title
is it Title 9, Title
9?
7? I don't know
No,
which one.
title I forgot which title it
One.
is. 1, Title 1. If you are at a Title 1
Title
school,
1.
like,
Right.
you can get your loans forgiven if you work there for 5 or 10 years or whatever, If you work at a nonprofit, you can get your loans, um,
Forgiven.
written off, forgiven if you work there for a period of time. So,
Well, and that's one of the things too, is that there has been 10 million dollars, or maybe it's billion, uh, no, $32 billion of student loan debt already forgiven
hmm,
before this announcement
yeah.
in those programs that you talked about.
Hmm.
And so, what we're going to do is on our Facebook group, The Real Money Coach, I'm going to post tonight when we get off the show a fact sheet from the White House about the student loan debt forgiveness program. So, you guys, if you have not liked our page or you have not subscribed to our page, make sure you go and do that. Tell your family and friends. Go to the realmoneycoach.com or Real Money Coach Facebook page, and we're going to post the fact sheet from the White House as it relates, because there's a couple other things that were included in this program. And
Hmm.
as I'm looking at it, one is the student loan forgiveness that we're talking about, but there's also a couple other things, like they're cutting payments in half for undergrad loans. So your payment
Right.
plan is going to be cut in half. Now, the other thing, remember this, y'all, if you're in school, you can still get the forgiveness.
Deferment. Yeah. Oh, right. You can still get the forgiveness.
You can
Yes.
still get the
Yes.
forgiveness if your loans were in place
Yes.
before um before
The announcement. Yeah.
July 1st. It was
Oh,
July
July 1st. Okay, got
July
it.
1st. Yep.
Yeah.
So remember that. And then they're also are doing some things to make it a little bit more accountability for educational institutions raising their tuition. So there's some
Okay.
cost
Nice.
cutting measures that were also part of this announcement that President Biden gave on this week.
Yeah. And one thing that's not included. So if you went to a private school, like you're not included.
Yeah, it's public
It's
institutions.
public institutions.
So and here's the thing about that. Many of our HBCUs are private institutions. And so
Okay.
and I did not realize
I didn't realize.
until you just mentioned it, that if you went to a private school, that you weren't part of the forgiveness program. So that is going to knock out a lot of our HBCU grads, because many of them are private institutions. Like Morehouse is
Hmm.
private, Spelman is private.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a lot of them that are private schools. So that's interesting that that they're excluded from that private schools. I understand that, because they're
I
probably
do.
saying, if you can afford to go to private school, then you shouldn't necessarily get the forgiveness or whatever. But
Right.
yeah, that's kind of a bummer, right?
Yeah.
So, but know the facts. That's the
Yeah.
whole
No
thing, is know
fact.
the facts.
Hmm.
So seminaries, and
Mm.
I believe most seminaries, Mr. Blakely, Reverend Blakely, is probably private, so it
Yeah.
probably would exclude seminaries, I would think. But this is what I would say right here, right? You have not because you ask not.
That
If
is
I got
true.
a student loan, I'm on the phone with
Right.
somebody. Tell me what is the rule, right? What is the
Yeah.
rule? And so, but like I said, we'll put this fact sheet out there so that people can and look at it. And I also had another thing about ways to save and take control of your student loan debt, which, like I said, not ignoring them,
Hmm.
and those type of things. So just want to make sure we stay on top of it. And that's kind of
Yep.
the hottest thing that we've been talking about in the news lately, is
Yep.
the student loan debt thing. So
It is.
if you have questions, concerns, make sure you email us at info at the Real Money Coach, and we will try to get answers for your questions.
Yep.
And the other thing that I wanted to mention is that even in my book, there's part in there about debt reduction.
Hmm.
And if you want a debt reduction plan, schedule time. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. We can give you some resources where you can develop a snowball plan and start paying off your debt. Hampton University. I don't know. Maybe someone could look up and let us know.
Yeah.
Hampton, I'm not sure if it's private or if it's a public institution. So maybe in
No, I'm
offline,
not sure.
somebody could take a look and find that out. Now, here's the thing, Michelle, as we talked about all this and student loan debt,
Mm-hmm.
inflation,
Mm-hmm.
um, COVID,
Yeah.
stay-at-home orders, um, man, people being furloughed, laid off.
Yeah.
Think about all the things that we've been through in the last 2 years,
I know.
right? And in February of 2020, boom, everything hit the fan.
Mm-hmm.
And all these different things. And as we talk about them and we talk about mortgage rates and all this, by the way, I saw this very interesting story. CNN did a story on it, right? Where these people had their house appraised. May have seen some of these stories. Their house was appraised at $400,000.
Mm-hmm.
Black couple. He is actually a professor at Hampton, I do believe.
Okay.
Um, and they were going to refinance so they could take advantage of the lower interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 2 point something is what the rate was when they applied. Their
Mm-hmm.
house was appraised at $400 and some $1,000.
Wow.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
they were flabbergasted. They were upset. They couldn't believe it because they did their research. They knew that their house should be appraised at least 600.
Wow.
At least 600. So what they did is I can't remember what term they called it. They whitewashed their house.
Oh.
Okay. So what
Mm-hmm.
that meant is they took
Yes.
down all
Every yeah.
everything, their pictures, their art,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. They took all that stuff down, right? And then they had one of their white colleagues be there when their appraisal came.
Okay.
So when their appraiser came, there was a white gentleman that invited them in, chit chat. The house came back appraised from the same appraisal company, I think it was. I don't know about that, but it came back appraised at $720,000.
Shut up.
They've filed a lawsuit of discrimination because the only difference between the house was when they first time it was appraised, they were there and they
Mm-hmm.
had their pictures of their
Mm-hmm.
family and all that up. The second time they had a Caucasian person and they took down all their pictures and it was a swing of $300,000 in their appraisal.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That is
Now,
crazy. Yeah.
what does all of this have to do with our guest tonight? Let me tell you, the stress of
Mm-hmm.
all of these things that we're talking about can be really tremendous on you,
Oh,
you
yes.
know. And so, I think it's so important that we have a release, that we have someone to talk to. And so that's why I think it's important to deal with this thing about our mental health, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because people love to say this. They said, your health is your wealth,
It is. Mhm.
but your mental health is part of that.
Yes.
And so I think your mental health, your physical health, all of that is part of your wealth. And so for that reason, I'm really excited about our guest tonight. And her name is Mrs. Felice Hightower Britt. And let me tell you a little bit about Felice. Felice is a clinical mental health counselor. She has her own practice, and man, her accolades are huge. But I like this about it, and she'll tell us some more, is that she has a degree in economics, right, from Johnson
Interesting.
C. Smith, master's in professional counseling from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, and she's a dynamic powerhouse behind the microphone and camera. She hosts her own talk show called Real Talk with Felice, and is a regular contributor to WBTV station here in Charlotte, North Carolina. So without any further ado, let's bring on Felice. How you doing tonight, Felice?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Tony.
Welcome.
I had to cut myself off, Felice. I just got to rambling about all this stuff going on, and my shoulders got tight. They got started a little tightness in my shoulders, Felice. So I had to say, let's bring on the expert tonight that can talk to us about the pressures of life. Really, man, it's a lot going on, Felice. But before we get into all of that, I'd like for you to share with our viewers and watchers a little bit about you and how you got into counseling. Just a little bit about your backstory, if you don't mind.
All right. So you started out saying that I have an economics degree, and I do, from Johnson C. Smith University. So how did I become a counselor, right? I shouldn't have been in economics. Let's start there. So,
True.
and I made my way to Johnson C. Smith via Brooklyn, New York. And it was a blessing that I got to Johnson C. Smith. It was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, going to HBCU. And so I take issue, because Johnson C. Smith is also a private institution. And so I take issue with that, because what it is not necessarily that our African-American children have enough money to go to private schools. It's just that sometimes with the inequity in education, it is our HBCUs that will take our young African-American people and mold them and make them into something, when a PWI or a private white institution will not accept them. So it's not necessarily a money thing, it's an acceptance thing. And so the fact that Biden is not including the private institutions that a lot of HBCUs are going to be affected by, I take issue with that. So you let me know. I'll email you and figure out who I need to write and and get on that. That's what it is. Because
I'm really surprised by that, though. Seriously.
I'm not.
So there may be a clause in that.
Yeah, I'm actually going to research that, because
Yeah.
I think the way
I
it
would
may
be surprised.
not to derail it, but I think what it may end up being is that if you went to the private institution, that you'll get the 10,000, but you won't get the additional 10,000 for the Pell Grant part.
Oh, okay.
Because I do believe Pell Grants, I'm not sure that they go to private institutions. So, but we'll unpack that.
So I didn't mean to go on a tangent. I
get it though. I mean,
I get it. Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. So by way of Brooklyn, I got an economics degree, and I was in banking for many, many years. Before I left the bank, I was a trainer, facilitator. And so I really loved it, but I knew that it wasn't my passion. That wasn't where I was supposed to be. But I had a really good manager. And when I said that I wanted to go to school, she said, well, get me your syllabus and we'll work it out. And she worked something out, because the bank paid for me to get my master's degree. And so I didn't have to pay for it. So it was a blessing. And I have been doing this work since 2008. So it's been about 14 years that I've been counseling. And I counsel individuals, families. I do a lot of couples. And I'm very passionate about it. I really do a lot of work with women. And I specialize in anxiety, depression, trauma, grief. And so I love what I do. And I really, I also have a personal history with mental health. My father suffers with schizophrenia. I have a brother who is challenged with autism. So I do have mental health in my background as well. And so I want to have real, meaningful, judgment-free dialogue around mental health. Because when I was growing up, Tony, I don't even think mental health I don't even think it came across our brains. And, we all have an Uncle Bubba or
right.
something that, was crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't just right. But we never used the term mental health.
We didn't.
Right.
They crazy.
And if I use the word that start with C, my sister-in-law gonna hunt me down and say, you can't say that, right? But that's what it was like in our community. Mm-hmm. It's like we never talked about real issues of mental health. It's like you know, that's like you said, Uncle so and so that on, you know, lived in the back room, right?
Right.
That you know, nobody kind of talked to or messed with, you know, so
Mhm.
we didn't really deal with it.
We never dealt
Um,
with it. And so, but that's what has plagued the African American community, because, you know, it was always, well, you know, if you were in the faith community, you know, you give it to God.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that I say when it comes to that is, yes, but I am a part of the body. So as a part of the body, you have physicians that are a part of the body, you have attorneys that are a part of the body. I'm a counselor, we're all a part of the body. And so I have a gift, the physician has a gift, your pastor has a gift. We're all here to contribute to your overall well-being. So it's not just that you go to the pastor and you give it to God. You can come to me too. It's
Right.
okay. I'm a part of the body. And so it's okay, because sometimes, and God bless our pastors, but that's a huge, huge undertaking, that they also have to be able to manage your mental health as well. When I can come along beside our churches, right, and partner with
Mhm.
them and say, hey, you don't have to do this all alone. We're here
right.
to be a part of the healing process. And so, you know, there's a lot of work to be done, but the more we talk about it, the more we destigmatize it. And that is my mission, is to make sure that we can normalize it and have conversation where we don't feel some kind of way, where we don't feel judgment when we tell somebody I'm going through something, or that I'm depressed, or that I'm anxious, because that is real. That judgment and that fear of judgment is real. And that's what keeps people from getting help. And so we have to stop judging around mental health.
You know, it's a couple of things that really kind of stand out to me in this conversation that you've mentioned so far. Is number one, and we chuckled. It was funny. It's like I never should have been in economics, right? And then you talked about being at the bank and then switching careers,
Mhm.
and you know that's hard for people to do, to go from one career and switch careers. And you know, so I think that's kind of a really a testament to you, is that you were willing to do that, because that takes some courage as well, right?
Well, let me just share with you. You know, I can't have a whole lot of props, because the bank had to kick me out, because my professors were always saying, you know, you don't make a lot of money in counseling. And I said, the devil is a lie, because I need to make some money. I'm not coming in here to be broke. But I guess there's some truth to it. I still don't attest to it, or agree with it. But I had worked my way up into the bank to where it was really hard for me to give up that
Sure.
salary and the years that I had put into it. And I had to get displaced, because I had
Mm,
one foot here and one foot there. I was like, somebody, because I was like, I can't choose, because I'm not giving this up. And so God knew. And so I got displaced, but that was the best thing that ever happened for me and to
Mm.
me. And so, so I just can't take full credit, but it was the best
but
thing that I
let me
did.
let me say this though, Felice, though, is that you positioned yourself so
Mhm.
when displacement came,
Yes.
you
You
were
were
ready.
ready. Yes.
And what she do, Michelle, she turned her passion
Into
into profit.
profit.
That's
Yes.
Michelle's line right there, right?
That's my
So
line.
you turn your passion into profit, but you positioned yourself, right?
Yes.
And I think there's a great message in being in a proper position, right?
Mhm.
Positioning where when God's ready to bless you, you're ready to receive the blessing,
Right.
right? And you know, and the whole thing about, you know, pastors and church folks, you know, the Bible's clear. He says that there's wisdom in a multitude of who?
Counselors.
Counselor.
Counselors, right? And that our body, there's many members but one
Mhm.
body, right?
Mhm.
So we all play a part. Now I know some gifted preachers. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
talking about they gifted, can preach the paint off the wall. But you know what they shouldn't do? Counsel somebody,
Counsel.
right?
Or give financial advice.
Or give financial advice, right? We all have our lane,
Yes.
right? So we all have our lane. So I
Mhm.
just wanted to point that out a little bit as you were speaking.
Yeah. So this conversation, I'm so glad that you have me on, because, when you talk about money as well, that plays with people's emotional well-being.
Mhm.
Money is very close to people's hearts,
Mhm.
right?
Hmm.
It's their mechanism in their mind for survival. It's also a mindset. And so people don't understand that therapy can touch on all of that, on how
Mhm.
to help you, or help, because a lot of our stuff is conditioning. So how
Mhm.
do we recondition, right, our mindset so that we look properly at money, that we look properly
Ooh.
about health, that we look properly about ourselves, self-care, nutrition. It could go on and on. It's a mindset. And so when you figure out how to be able to change your mindset, that's a game changer for everyone.
Right. And you're right, because we hear those things, right? It's like, what do we hear? Money don't grow on trees, and you better eat that because there's children starving in Africa,
Right.
and all,
Conditioning.
it's conditioning.
It's
and
conditioning.
and sometimes, one of the things we like to do in our financial classes, and I know Michelle does too, is we have to deal with money mindset and
Yep.
psychology first.
Mhm.
Because if I teach you how to budget, but I haven't changed your mindset,
Yep.
in your relationship with money, what's your first recollection of money? What
Mm.
was that relationship like with money? Was it a relationship of lack, or or what is it that then shapes us? And do you think, Felice, that sometimes people, because of that trauma, they self-sabotage sometimes? What do you think?
A lot. And it's a
Mhm.
journey, right? Like, even
Mhm.
when people do get a handle on it, what they don't realize is that you it's not the goal, it's the maintenance that's the hard part.
Mhm.
So
Mm,
it's the being able to stay on track, because as we get older, we always go back to what's familiar, what's
Mhm.
comfortable. So even if you've come and you've made some progress, you still have to fight that urge to go back to what you knew. And
Mhm.
so
mm.
it has to be measures that are put in place that helps you to stay on track, that helps you to make the right decisions on a daily basis. And so I always tell my clients, don't go too far out. If you are blessed to wake up, you stay right there in that day. You stay with the day, you said thank you, right? And then you stay there. Don't go too far out, because if you go too far out, it becomes overwhelming. And when things become overwhelming, you say, well, why even do anything? So just handle the
Mhm.
day. But we have to put measures in our day that helps us to be disciplined, to make right choices, so that we keep and maintain any progress that we've made.
Yeah. The systems
I,
that you put in your life to to put the rails on so you stay in the lane of the change is the discipline. It comes down to the discipline of your daily activity.
It's right. And
Mhm.
discipline is not motivation,
No. Mm-mm.
right? Because people
mhm.
always, like, one of the
It's
biggest things, like,
maintenance.
it's maintenance. And,
It's
and what
maintenance.
and what
Mhm.
people always tell me is like, I'm not motivated. I'm not motivated. I'm like, what's motivation got to do with you doing what you need to do? I mean, if
Yeah.
if you want to be completely honest, I like to be on the beach somewhere all day, every day. And if I could find a motivation to get me there, that would be it. I said, I'm not motivated to talk to people nonstop all day long. What does that have to do with me getting up and
Mhm.
doing what I need
Mm,
to do?
that's
It's
good.
separate from motivation. And so,
Mhm.
okay, if you must need motivation, homelessness is not a choice for you, I believe. Hunger, right?
Right.
Lack of being able to go get that nice shoe from Jimmy Choo. Okay, so if you need a motivation, put that up. But what am I saying? I'm saying it takes discipline. It takes certain
Mhm.
things that you just do
Yep.
because you need to do it. And then what happens is, if you do something long enough, and I don't know that
Mhm.
magic day, I don't know that magic number, but if you do something long enough, it does become a habit. And
It
then
does.
we gotta go a little further than habit. We gotta then go to lifestyle, where it becomes a part
Mhm.
of
Mm,
who we are and our lifestyle, so that our very being, if I don't do this thing, I'm out of order. I don't feel right. I don't show up right, and it's painful. That's where we need
because
to
it
get.
becomes part of who you are and what
Right.
you do. And
And
you
when
know,
you don't do it, you feel funny. You
right,
Yes.
feel
like
like out of
something's
sorts.
wrong.
Yeah.
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 You know, you said something though that I think is very key. You said you don't know what that number is because so often we hear people say it takes 21 days to make a habit. But how many times have you done something for 21 days and then
It wasn't a habit.
it wasn't a habit? It didn't become a lifestyle.
Mhm.
It was a short-term discipline for 21 days, but it never really developed into a habit and a lifestyle.
That's why I don't like putting a number on it because we like goals, we like deadlines, we like to know that there's an end.
Yeah.
And what I tell my clients is that there is no end. You don't get to coast in this
Right.
life. And as Americans, we love to coast. We love to just be able
Mm.
to just put things on cruise control. But and I'm not even saying unfortunately. I say you get to do whatever it is you want to do every day. If you change your wording, right?
Mm.
Not I got to wake up and do this, but how about changing it to I get to do this? And so if you know that you get to do something, then you can do it indefinitely. And so it's
Right.
a lot, it's some little tricks that we can do that helps us to create disciplines. And I haven't arrived totally yet. I'm still on the journey as well, but I know it works.
To me, it's kind of like, when you're a child and you teach your child how to brush their teeth and you do it long enough so it becomes a habit, and then they can't get up
Mm.
in the morning without brushing their teeth. Like it becomes a lifestyle.
That's the key. You want to
Yeah.
go beyond habit
Yeah.
because
Right.
habits can be broken. They can,
Hmm.
you can kind of let go of a habit. You want it
Get
to become a part.
disrupted. Yeah.
Right
Hmm.
now, when you go out the door and when you didn't brush your teeth, you don't feel right. You're like, I cannot show up.
With my teeth, with a
I
breath
got
on fire.
right. That's it.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
That's where you want to get to. You want to get to the point in your life where, like, another example, like vegans. I'm like, I don't think people wake up and just say, I just love, some green stuff. What happens is that they get to the point where their body is so energized, they feel so good, they could run highest mountains, that if they even smell bacon,
Hmm.
it would just change their whole ability, right? So what am I
Right.
saying? It's like it changes them, like it makes them sick. Like some
Yes.
people say, if I even smell or know that I get nauseous.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's where you want to get to. So it's even if they wanted to not be a vegan anymore, they wouldn't feel good. They cannot go backwards. That's the goal. We want to get it to a point where going backwards is not an option.
It's not an option.
Well,
Yes.
and I'll tell you honestly, I have to give kudos to my wife on this one because, she decided that she wasn't going to eat meat anymore,
Hmm.
and I mean, I never made that decision, so I never made that decision, y'all. But it's really her lifestyle.
Yes.
Make you brush your teeth, but it's a lifestyle for her. And so and I see that because it's like it's amazing to me how she can do it. I mean, it doesn't bother her. I mean,
Yep.
she does it. I mean, I eat plenty of meat, it doesn't bother
Hmm.
her, but it's her lifestyle. It's her lifestyle, and so that's so important. I think that's huge, is to change the lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Felice, with everything that's going on around us, um, are there a couple tips that you could maybe give the audience tonight if they're feeling stressed or feeling under pressure? Maybe it's financially, maybe it's relationships. And I know you said you work with a lot of couples, and what we hear so often that finances is
Mhm.
the number one cause of divorce. We hear that. So what's your take on some of that?
Oh wow, that's so layered, right? I
I
just wrote
know.
down a word real quick. Communication for couples is communication, right? We do a lot
Mhm.
of stuff like we think our couple is our partner is psychic. They're not psychic. And I don't care how long they've been with you. And I know some people have been long enough that if they give the look, they know let's go or something like that. Okay, I'm sure that takes decades. But in the meanwhile, until you get there, you must communicate. You must share your truth in moments. Don't wait 3 years back and then give a laundry list. Well, I remember what you did in 1988, and and like, sir, you've been holding that this long, and you're gonna hold me accountable to that. You couldn't have told me then. It's that kind of thing. You need to share truths in moments, and you need to create safe spaces for one another where you can be vulnerable, where you can be transparent, and you won't be judged, not by your partner. Now we go
Right.
out there in that world, right? We have to face a whole lot of stuff. But when you come home, that should be your dwelling place and your safe space. And so to
Mhm.
create a safe space where you can be transparent, where you can be vulnerable, and you can speak truths in moments through communication, that's huge. So I'm just going to stay there with the couples. But as far as overall and people being stressed, right? And
Mhm.
I don't know about you, and I'm a news. I love the news, right? But I only watch the news first thing in the morning, and then that's it.
That's good.
Anything
That's
that happens
good.
in between, right? You're gonna find out
Mhm.
tomorrow morning. You don't need to be watching it all day long. There's no good news on news, right? And if it was good news, we wouldn't watch it. And so it's anxiety ridden, right? And so when you hear of the droughts, the famines, the rumors of wars, no, no formula, like chicken going up, like God forbid, chicken
No
going up
water. Did you hear about Mississippi today?
in Mississippi, no.
Yeah, I have
No
clients
water.
in Mississippi, and
Mhm.
the water situation,
It's
it,
real.
what they're going through right now ain't nothing. I mean, Flint wasn't nothing compared to what they're dealing
Right.
with right
But
now.
we're
Mhm.
sharing in that by hearing it. And so when you hear
Mhm.
it over and over and over again, you feel helpless. And is this going to happen to us? When is the ball going to drop for us? And that's just too much anxiety and stress. We have too many things. So one of the things that I share with my clients first is that you've got to do a lot of self-care right now. And self-care is not selfish,
Mm, that's
because
Mhm.
you
good.
can't care for people. And people think like, oh, I'm such a caring person. I'm kind, I'm loving. Not if you haven't learned how to do that for yourself first.
Mhm.
You got to learn how to do that
Mm,
for yourself first in order to be able to give it accurately. And so we've got to do a lot of self care. So one of the things I tell my clients is to get centered. Start something in the morning, or if you're a night person, set some time late at night, either devotion, it could be yoga, meditation, just sitting out on the deck, watching nature. Do something so that you govern the flow of your day. And then find ways to be positive, find things to be grateful for, because there's going to be a lot of
mm,
in spite ofs that
Mhm.
happens in your day, right? There's going to be somebody that cuts you off in traffic. There's going to be somebody at work that tried to blast you an email. There's going to be a lot of in spite ofs. But if you find things to be grateful for throughout your day, you can combat that, right? And so what are you
Mhm.
doing? You're governing the flow of your day. And then at the end, if you sit back and you reflect on all of those things, you've had a good day. And
Mhm.
so I'm just going to start and step here. But those are just some really quick foundational things that people can do to take care of themselves.
I love
Yeah.
that, governing the flow of your day.
Mhm.
That's good. That's really good. Because people talk about time management, and I've said for years, there's no such thing as time management.
Mm-mm.
Because guess what? I can't make the day slow down. I can't make it speed up.
Speed up.
I
Right.
can't add a 25th hour. I mean, but what I can control is the events of the day. I can control
Yes.
those events, those things that I say yes to, those things that I say no to, the things that I like to do to give me energy, things that drain energy from me. And so
Yeah, and I like your reflection piece as well. And I teach myself, like I do it myself, and I teach my clients, like, reflect at the end of the day. What went well today? What do I need support with? And what am I looking forward to tomorrow? Like, just asking those three questions of yourself can help
right.
you identify, like, what's most important to you right now and tomorrow.
And I
Like,
think it helps you keep you centered.
yeah, it keeps you
So
centered. Hmm.
And
yeah,
guess
so
what? That's intentionality.
Yeah, it's being
mhm.
intentional. Mhm.
And that's control, because anxiety is a lack of control. But there's so many things that you do control. And so those things, do that and do it well. Be
Yeah.
intentional.
That's good. Be intentional. So if someone is watching and they want to say, hey, listen, I need to sit down and talk to someone. I need a counselor. Are you taking new patients? Are you how do they get in contact with you? How do we follow you on social media? All that stuff.
Okay, thank you for asking. And they're my clients. I don't really like the term patient.
Did I say
So
patient?
yeah, that's all right. A lot of people do. I just
Forgive me for that.
that's all right.
Clients.
I call them clients. So right. So I'm on Psychology Today. And so my private practice is Resiliency Consultants and Therapeutic Services. And so I put it in the private chat as far as my website. My website is Resiliency CTS Consultants Therapeutic Services, abbreviated. So resiliencycts.com. That's my website. You can reach me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I am Real Talk with Felice. So you can slide in my DMs. I won't as long as it's professional, right? So I'm okay, because people don't like that, but I'm okay with it if it's professional. But those are ways that you can reach me, and I always, I do my best, but I also do my best now and conscious to also do some good self-care so that I can
Mhm.
show up for my clients. I really, really want to be a blessing. And the only way that I can be a blessing is that I've got to really, really hone in on my own self-care. And so,
Well, and I think that was something that you said that I thought was really, really important is that self-care is not selfish. Um, and so that's important. Um, because I think sometimes we can feel guilty when we do something for ourselves. And honestly, particularly in mothers, you know, sometimes, my wife will just go all out for the kids and me and taking care of everybody else. And sometimes you just got to take care of yourself. So, that's why, we have to do things for self-care. That's why y'all can't reach me this coming weekend because I'm gonna be going somewhere doing some self-care with my woman, all right, with my wife. So y'all better just I told my team that the other night, y'all won't be able to get me Friday through Monday this week because we got to go and do some self-care, celebrate, ourselves, being together and all those type of things for 30 years, like Michelle and her
That's
husband.
right.
So, but I love that. Self-care is not selfish. And so that's pretty cool. So we have scrolling on the screen right now, you guys, we got the Real Talk with Felice. We got it for her Twitter. We got the website scrolling there. So make sure that you get that information, come back, watch the replay and all those good things. Because I really do think it was an important topic that we had tonight. And I hope people take it seriously, their self-care, and making sure. And I love I'm just stuck on that, governing the flow of your day. And sometimes, I think it's a challenge working from home, right? Because a lot of times when you work from home, you're like always at the office. And so sometimes for me, I might just take 10 minutes and just go upstairs, lay across the bed for 10 minutes and just chill, you know. And so walk outside, get some fresh air, go to the gas station, whatever the case may be, just to get out. And it's important that we do those things. So, Felice, any parting words for you, for our listeners?
be observant. Like, for the people in your life that you believe you love, put your phones down for a little bit sometimes. Get
Be in
quiet
the moment.
in the moment and just observe so that you can pick up on things that, because people are going through it right now and they don't have the courage to come forward. And so sometimes it takes one of us to be observant to say, hey, I'm noticing you're not like yourself usually. And you want to talk, you want to go for lunch. It's that simple. And just be, I think we need some more time to just be present with people
Mhm.
and observe, and so that we can tap into things that are going on with them and be support.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Felice, thank you for taking the time, both to talk to the listening audience on Saturday morning and to come here and spend this time with us. And y'all reach out, and there's no shame. There's no um there's nothing wrong with getting help. And that just makes good sense, don't it? If you
Mm.
need help, get help.
Get help.
Whether it's your mental health, your physical health, your finances, whatever it is, get help. Get help.
Mhm.
And that's what we want our message to be tonight, is to make sure you get help. Now listen, coming up next week on our show, we have a phenomenal guest that's going to come in and talk to us about how he had made millions and lost it all. His is Darren Henson. You guys may know him as Orlando Duncan on the Family
Mm.
Biz show on BET Plus. He was in Soul Food. He's done a lot of things. He's worked with people like Jennifer Lopez, Michael Jackson, and our title next week is going to be Life's Teachable Moments. And so we're going to talk about life's teachable moments, and he's going to talk about how he had all of the wealth and how
Mm.
made some mistakes and lost it, and now he's back again. So he's going to be our celebrity guest on Saturday morning at 7:30 on Praise 100.9, and he will be our guest here next Tuesday evening and sharing some of his experience. So make sure y'all tune in for Darren Henson next week. Felice, thank you once again
Yes.
for
Thank
being
you.
with us. Michelle, as always, thank you for being here.
You're
So
welcome.
I don't know. God is so good. We just have some wonderful conversations.
We do all the time.
Conversations, and God always brings that to be. And it's really remarkable how many of our guests. I mean, we never talk about.
No.
We're going to talk about God. We're going to have and intentionally. A lot of times, I don't want to put a lot of questions out there.
Mhm.
Guests be asking me, "Well, what you going to ask me?" It's like, we want you to just talk about you,
Yeah.
because we want it to be authentic and for people to get a lot of it. Look, Timothy and Cynthia Day said, "Great show." Listen, it was a great conversation. Thank you all. Kim Richardson Nesbitt, she is from Radio One, awesome
Oh, nice.
representative over there at Radio One. So listen, thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much for being part of the show tonight. And we will see you next week. But don't forget, Saturday morning, 7:30 a.m., Praise 100.9. Y'all have a good night, everybody.
Good night.